Alright everybody, welcome back to the Hexes and Soldiers YouTube channel. Jason here, it's been a while, and I hope everybody's been doing well, had a good Christmas, had a good New Year. I myself can't complain out loud. I think things went relatively well. Run through a couple of things, updates, news, what's been going on, some of it mundane and trivial, uninteresting. Feel free to fast forward until you find something you like, but otherwise, let's see, I'll start with the mundane. Where do I start? I find myself a bachelor these days, so that's good and bad. After 10 years, my esteemed associate and I have decided to part ways, at least for a while. See how that goes, and then touch base further down the road. But looks like I have full reign of the roost for a while. And so, point being, you may see a bit more of me than you have in the past, because I don't have the female obligation I did at one time. And again, don't feel bad for me. It is what it is. Things happen, life goes on. What else? It is freezing here in New Orleans, I should add, and got down to 20 last night, so as a result I have no water as we speak. I'm hoping it is simply because the pipes are frozen, although it could be because the pipes froze and burst. So when it does get warm, which is supposed to be, this was last night this started, and it's not supposed to get above freezing here in New Orleans until tomorrow afternoon. Isn't that odd? It's like I live in the upside down. So that's fun, no water. And what else? I watched a Saints game for the first time. Yeah, congratulations to me. I don't know that I'll be doing that again anytime soon. I watched the infamous, or soon to be, if not already infamous, Minnesota Saints game, and wow, what a roller coaster ride. And then complete shock and awe with the last 10 seconds. I hate football, but it was something to do, and good thing it's not my Blues hockey team. I would have really been devastated. But it did remind me of the old Blues, the way they pulled that off in the end. Seems like something the Blues would do. So a bit of familiarity there. What else? Moving right along. The latest release from H&S Games, which would be this guy here, is Oot and a Boot. Anybody that missed that, well, it's available. And sales have been satisfactory, let's put it that way. I thought I was honing in on a niche as far as the style of the game, and I think I nailed that. But as it turns out, people just like maps. So the fact that this doesn't have a map, the whole entire game is geared around not having a map. That's that. So people like maps, for future reference, as if there was any doubt to that. And I myself also like maps. I've always said that there's a bit of the old cartographer and the old wargamer, and I suppose that will always hold true. What does that leave? That leaves, let's see, freezing, no more girlfriend, new game. Well, so things on the drawing board. Not a lot on the drawing board. In fact, virtually nothing. Been kicking around a few things. They are in the idea infant stage, so I'm not even going to go into depth of what those are. The thing that is most likely to be seen in any shape or form is this this platoon leader quick play piggyback rules iteration. What the hell am I talking about? I'm talking about being able to take 3-4 pages of rules that streamline, hone down the platoon leader system, and can be attached to, say, squad leader, advanced squad leader, combat commander, the like. Kicking around the idea of making these free. So be looking potentially for that. And, you know, I figure it's a way to let people whet their appetite with the platoon leader system. So won't be any scenarios, won't be any maps, it won't be a game, it'll just be rules that will allow you to piggyback onto other games. So keep an eye out for that. And then finally, got a few things. As you can imagine, it's been a while since I talked to you guys. Don't have the time, although I would like to, don't have the time to go in depth into everything at this moment, but we'll say this, and fantastic game overall. Mechanics, the way it plays, the what you get in the box. I mean, you get more bang for your buck in that game than just about any game I've ever come across. In fact, that has fast become one of my top 5 desert island games. So I guess if you're not watching, I'm talking about Lost Battles by Philip Sabin. This thing comes with the book that he wrote, Lost Battles. I mean, the terrain cards that create the map, you get a ton of those. You get a ton of scenarios. 40 battles. I mean, it's amazing. Simply amazing. So that was exciting. And the sad story is, and it's kind of a pet peeve of mine, if those of you that know me, the price of these things when they go out of print and the availability is so, it's just so jacked up and it's so ridiculous. I got sort of lucky with the one I found, but still paid probably a penny or two more than this thing needed to be paid for. And again, you know, it's just a shame because there's so many cool games out there, and people just, it's like they're lording over their treasures, and that goes back to a copy of some ASL historical module. I don't remember which one it was, but they're asking $800. You know, I mean, stuff like that. It's ridiculous. Some minor odds and ends and bits. Picked that up. That is my first ASL March Madness scenario pack, and this scenario pack actually comes with a little terrain card, or I should say a little map. So how fancy is that? Not just scenarios, but a map as well. So pick that up. Currently waiting for the Winter Offensive bonus pack number 9. Checking the MMP site regularly for them to post that, because they usually do so right after Winter Offensive that's held every year. And that just ended, so keep checking for that. And I'm also waiting for the high sign on Korean War ASL. That thing I have been waiting forever and ever and ever, literally lifetimes. So cannot wait for that to show up, and that is, the pre-orders are shipping now finally. So I think I had a pre-order lost and then had to reorder it, so I'm like at the end of the line with this thing. So I'll probably be the last, very last to get a copy of that. So again, yeah, the sweater, the gloves, it isn't just for show or to make myself appear fashionable. It is freezing, no doubt about it. So that brings us to the tail end of this whole howdy do, and that is this regards the second Kickstarter I ever backed. The first was Old School Tactical 2, which I had not done a review or unboxing of. I figured there's enough videos of that out already. You don't need another one. But this would be Forest of the Impaled, about Vlad Dracula, from Command Post Games. This is my first Command Post game. They've been around for a little while now. Half a dozen or less games that they have available. Everything from the Battle of Marengo to the Civil War. Why am I showing you this? This is the cover of the game, obviously, but also, if you'll notice, it's a little oddly shaped and curved. Why? Because Command Post Games has this little shtick. They ship them in tubes, so everything's rolled up and in the tube. I dig it. I like the idea. My shelves don't much care for it, but I think it's a hip and clever idea. I myself considered packaging games in pizza boxes and sending them, but then I thought, My God, pizza boxes are terrible for holding anything inside once you get it home and open it, so pieces would be falling all over the place. And so yeah, what is this game and why did I kickstart this, my second Kickstarter game? This is, again, Forest of the Impaled. It's a co-op board game where up to 6 Muslim players invade and attempt to conquer Romania. Now, I don't think you have to be Muslim to play. I think what they mean is it's 6 players that represent Muslim faction. Heavily outnumbered, the Dracula player fights with his Christian army to defend his country and survive. It's loosely based on the historical campaign of Vlad Dracula Tepes in 1462. To defeat Dracula, the Muslim players must cooperate closely as a team, or if you're like me, you play solo and that doesn't mean squat, but they can only communicate if their headquarters are in the same area. This results in hysterical fun, miscommunication, and confusion reign as Dracula picks off his enemies in detail. That is from the entry on Board Game Geek. And there's not a lot on here with this page as far as errata or files or updates or anything really. That could be good or bad. I don't know why the cat is freaking out, but it's really annoying. I guess she's cold as well. So, looks like there's finally a rules question on here, a couple. I haven't looked at those yet. Anyway, what are we looking at here? You're looking at a map, obviously. This is a canvas map, literally. It's rolled up canvas. It's thick, it's sturdy, it's durable. I dig it. I like the style on the map. It's all fantastic. Again, this caters to why I kickstarted the game. It deals with a subject that is a little left of center. It's not overdone. I don't know how many games out there, if any, that deal with this subject in a serious, palatable manner. So this was the first, as far as I know, and it really caught my eye. I should also add that I'm a sucker for the little bitty blocks that you might see on a atlas map of period map, I should say. So again, the aesthetic really appeals to me, and you need to calm down. The aesthetic, I just had a wrestling match with the cat, so the aesthetic really appeals to me, and I'm going to get to the good and the bad. I guess I'll start with the good. Again, the map is great, canvas map. I dig the style. It comes in a tube. The time period, the turnaround, from the time that I ordered this till the time it showed up was fantastic. I think it was, it might have even been as little as, I lost track, maybe 6 to 9 months, probably even less. And that was from the predicted year or so time that they thought it would take to get this thing out. And there's really no reason for this thing to take long to get out. Why? Because again, you have a single canvas map that is everything printed on it. You have little blocks that have been painted. There's nothing fancy going on here, and I don't mean that in a negative or derogatory way. It's beauty and simplicity. I did spring for the extra little dice with they call these the dragon dice, and there's an example of the dragon. Did spring for those. There's other things you could spring for, but I determined I could live without the other stuff, so that's what I got. A couple canvas bags, and yeah. So what else do we have? We have a couple planning maps, which is fine, single-sided. Then you have your setup map, and this is double-sided with the starting forces on the back and the Dracula setup on the front. And the rule book is, as they said, 8 pages. Again, nothing fancy or elaborate or overly complicated. Keep it simple. Very straightforward stuff. So, what's going on with this game? What's going on with this game is It says Draculia has infuriated the Ottoman Sultan by refusing to pay tribute. If you know your history, you already know this. The wily Draculia has already escaped several attempts at capture. The Sultan has now prepared a massive invasion of Wallachia to crush the rebellious prince. And again, one player controls the Draculia and his forces, and up to 6 other players control the Ottoman armies. And what do we have? We have headquarters pieces, and there's a couple things in these rules that, I'm a big fan of specific mechanics within a game, and I probably enjoy reading rules and getting ideas and noticing innovative, again, mechanics in a game as much as I do enjoy playing the game. So, a couple of things I noticed, and I'll touch on those. These headquarters units are vital. I mean, the individual units, the armies, can do nothing without the headquarters pieces allowing it. So, if a headquarters moves from an area or through an area, they can pick up army pieces up to a certain amount and or drop them off as they move along, but these guys aren't going to go anywhere without the headquarters. And as you can imagine, each headquarters has its own rating. Draculia and Radu have their rating, Draculia a 4 if you're curious. The Muslims have a rating of 2, so there's a kind of counterbalance, an asymmetrical balance, if you will, going on that deals with, as you can probably well see clear enough, Draculia has minimal amount of forces against a lopsided adversary here. They have no lack of armies that are moving into Wallachia and Transylvania. Sounds weird to hear me say that. So you have headquarters, which are rated in the chits. I love chit pull, and it makes for a great stuff when you are gaming solo, which I do 99.999% of the time. These are those. You're going to put these in a bag and draw, and whoever you draw will correspond to a headquarters, which will then move, conduct combat, etc. And then we have obviously the troops themselves, black being Draculia and Radu, and the red being the Muslim. Breakdown of the turn sequence. Nothing complicated or confusing there. Pulling shits, conducting movement, etc. You can move up to 3 movement points. So I guess you may not be able to see well enough on the map, but this map is broken down into areas, so I guess you could technically call this an area movement game. You can move up to 3 areas with a headquarters unit and any attached army. A couple examples. It's interesting that you'll see mountains, and it says that only Christians, and the black would be the Christians. Only the Christians can move through mountain areas. I found that interesting. Additionally, I found interesting the fact that I already touched on, that really these guys can do nothing without their headquarters. It isn't like the headquarters supplement or allow a bonus or whatever. They're useless without the headquarters, and that's intriguing to me. Recruiting can happen, so if you're in a specific area, you can actually recruit units that will then help you out as far as fighting. Impalements. Now here's another cool concept. This also helps the Christians' cause in an odd way. So if you remember historically, the Sultan saw or caught wind of all the impaled bodies that Draculia had erected, and this really freaked out the Muslims, strangely, but it really freaked them out, and apparently many of them lost the will to fight, or their morale broke, you could say, and that's represented in this game. So any units that the Christians destroy up to a certain amount each turn can be impaled simply by turning right side up instead of laying down, if you can see that, right side up, to represent an impaled unit. This in turn has an effect on any Muslim troops that move through that area. They have to take a morale check when they move through an area with impaled troops. I thought that was very cool. Might be one of my favorite things about this game. How to resolve combat. Now here's an interesting thing. When units from either side move into the same area, you have to conduct a search. I've never heard of this before. I've heard of spotting. I guess it's kind of more of an overview, strategic way of dealing with spotting. But they call it searching, and I guess is also an abstract way of dealing with initiative. So there's that. Fire, surprise fire. Let's see. There's castles here. Certain areas on the map have a red X, which represents the amount of units that can be holed up in a castle. And it looks like there's a fair amount. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Maybe 9, at least 9 castles on here. Very effective when it comes to defending, and the Muslim troops can, if they so decide, to storm and or siege a castle. Rules for that. Supply is on here, so let's see. You must be able to trace a supply path back to a friendly controlled home province area. I think that's going to be more of an issue for the Muslim troops and the Christians, but still in there, and as it should be. I like that. You can alter the turn order as well, which I found interesting. Once per turn, each headquarters may attempt to alter their move sequence by conducting a roll to see if they can do that. But that will then allow them to either delay a move or move now, which allows them to jump ahead in sequence and move next. Found that interesting. So how do you win the thing? What's the whole point of this? The point is you're going to take this turn track, which is they specifically added this for that. This black die with the red pips is your turn track. You set that to 4 and count it down. The Muslims win if they control every castle in Transylvania and Wallachia. And Dracula wins if he still controls at least one castle in both Transylvania and Wallachia. All other results are a draw. So based on the victory conditions and some of the ratings that the headquarters for the Christians have, as well as being able to impale Muslims and freak them out, it kind of balances out. So, you know, initially looking at this thing, you might think, how the hell could Dracula ever win or hold off this massive armies that will soon be rushing into Wallachia and moving their way up through Transylvania? Well, that's how, and it's a very interesting balance as it turns out. Couple optional rules in here, which I won't go into, for tinkerers like myself, and then your multiplayer rules, and they mean nothing to me because I am as I mentioned, a solo player. So this is Force of the Impaled by Command Post Games, my second ever Kickstarter. This thing came out in rapid time. Aesthetically, it appeals to me. It's simple. It doesn't take a lot of time to learn. It doesn't take a whole lot of time to play. It would play a lot faster if you're more than one person. But there's just enough meat on the bone here to make this an interesting game. Now, I should add, I had a couple of minor gripes, but I'm not even sure I'm going to go into those. They're that minor. I will go into one gripe. I love everything you get here. I like the style. I respect Command Post Games and what they have done in the past, from what I've seen and read. But I have to say, based on what you get, it seems a little pricey, and that's being nice. I'll just leave it at that. Granted, nobody twisted my arm and made me pay for this, and I knew what I was getting into, more or less. But now that I have the thing and the components and all of that, the price that I paid seems fairly steep for what I got. So in the future, if anybody from Command Post is watching this, or word gets back to them, maybe consider adjusting the prices with what you get. Now, I'm sure they will have justification for why they had to set the price where they did. I get all that, but I don't know that if they did explain this all to me, I would still buy it. But I guess that's my major gripe, and fairly big gripe, but at the same time, it's a good game you got here. And if you're interested in the subject matter, the period, once again, this is something that there's not a ton of games out there about this. And this is, again, from what I've seen and studied, this is the first game to come out that treats the subject matter. And again, intelligent, mature, interesting manner. So that's that. Force of the Impaled. Glad to be back here with you guys. It's been a while, like I said. I owe you guys a Hexes and Soldiers episode. That will be number 50. And that will be coming eventually. As I said, I will be having more time to do things like this based on my circumstances. And I think that's it. So, again, I'll talk to you guys soon. And thanks for watching.